We're well short of the amount due, I'm afraid.
We need to think bigger. Like, behemoth big.
Hunting down its horns could get us the money, if it doesn't get us killed.
Wouldn't worry. We're as good as dead without the car anyway.
Might already be a lost cause.
Hey, if Cindy says she can fix it, that's good enough for me.
And since she's gone to all the trouble of servicing it nearby, we need only concern ourselves with one thing and one thing alone.
The money.
Michael Damiani, I feel like I've been waiting for this day for years. For years, I've wanted to play Versus 13, Final Fantasy 15, whatever you want to call it, I've wanted to play it, and last night I had that chance. You did as well, and I want a gut reaction. How do you feel about the demo for Final Fantasy 15?
I was in disbelief that I was actually playing Final Fantasy 15. And I will gladly concede that the joy of getting to play something you waited 9 years for. You could argue all you want when it really started development, but the game known previously as Versus 13 announced in 2006. And we saw Noctis in that trailer, so we have known Noctis for nearly 9 years, and finally getting to play him, with his quote unquote the buddies. I don't know if you saw that trailer. That was pretty funny. The gut reaction is they're definitely doing a lot of things different. This is the most unique feeling Final Fantasy game just from a demo that I've seen, honestly. And while it clearly has issues, they admitted they had to cut out a lot of stuff. You can't ride the car, you can't ride the chocobos. The frame rate goes to hell a lot, especially in battles. And I think the combat still needs some tweaking, especially the camera system. But despite all that, I had a really good time playing it, and I was left with this sense of, oh man, please don't take like another few years. Please come out within the next year. Please, I just want to play this as soon as possible. And I had a good time with it.
Absolutely. So they kind of drop you into this pretty big area, and kind of the central thing that you're doing is you're trying to hunt down a behemoth so you can collect enough gil to repair your car and get back on the road. And as you're kind of going along and collecting gil, you encounter different beasts. You encounter the mammoth guys from Final Fantasy VI. I don't remember their name. You encounter these saber-toothed dog guys, and you encounter goblins. You even go into a dungeon and you fight a bunch of goblins and you get your summon. And kind of as a starting point here, let's talk a little bit about the combat. You only control Noctis when you play, and he has a bunch of different weapons that you can switch between, and kind of a combo string where he'll go through these different weapons. How do you think that felt?
So it took a bit of time to get used to it. The whole thing about holding down the button to execute attacks, you can just hold down X when you're locked onto an enemy, and it'll continue to do your combo string till the enemy's near death. And then there was always an opener attack, a bunch of combo swings in between, and there was always a weapon you always use to finish the enemy. Same thing with defense. You held down L1 to constantly be in a state of dodge, so that if someone swung at you, you would dodge. And then you could also parry and repose against enemy attacks. And then you had the whole warp strike / teleport system going on. And honestly, I was trying to play it like a character action game at first, where I thought it was all about very critical timing and reactions.
Right.
And while some of that is there, it's more about toggling between the ability to be on defense, being on offense, and then teleporting away. And once that started to click with me, I started to get what they were doing, and I found the combat more enjoyable, and battles went a little bit better. Early on, I was getting a little bit frustrated, with the lock-on system and the camera work. I was like, oh man, is this just not done yet? Because the camera's spinning all over the place, and I can't focus on enemy half the time, especially when they run away. And I finally learned to trust the lock-on. Even if your camera wasn't facing the enemy directly, as long as you had snap locked onto the enemy, your swings would go towards them. So even if as disorienting as it was, I learned to trust it, and it ended up being just fine. I do feel there isn't much diversity in the way you attack the remedial enemies. It felt like you just had to land an initial blow and then follow hit the combo button so you could hold it down. I felt myself holding down the button a lot. However, when they would dodge away, that's when I would use manual attacks to kind of stagger them so I wasn't whiffing. Plus, it would also draw out like the long sword, so that would cover more distance. I kind of did like a lunge attack to close the gap a little bit faster. I did like the teleport strike. How at any time when I defeated an enemy, if I held down the lock on button and then pushed the warp strike attack, which was the X, I would instantly warp over to another enemy and begin attacking them. And I kind of like that about it. And I did like the parry system. At some points, it felt like if it was an enemy you weren't locked onto, and you tried to, you saw the icon that gold, bronze, like semicircles with the like indicating like alert. Uh, I'm used to like in an action game like hitting the parry or block button towards that direction. So I was doing that at first, and that wasn't really doing anything. It felt like you had to like kind of find a quick way to toggle your active lock on to that enemy or just face that way. It seemed to be like more. I got more success out of that. But yeah, so there were obviously issues, but I was enjoying what they were trying to do. I just think they need to clean it up a bit. They need to work on the lock on.
Hmm.
They need to. I'm assuming there's more to the combat than just that. There's more weapon types, I'm assuming. So, and maybe there's more about changing out your weapons real time. Because at the beginning they asked you to rearrange your weapon just to see your weapon order to see how it made a little bit of a difference. So, in general, though, it took a while. It had a little bit of a learning curve, in my opinion, and it felt a little too simplistic. But at times, it could also be frustrating because it lacked some polish.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. Once, especially once I got used to it, it did feel a little simple. But in some ways, I kind of like that. This sort of more action-oriented approach. It feels like they tried to put as many things in as few button presses as possible. And so I feel like it's really easy to get into a rhythm during combat. And once you kind of get a feel for how parrying works, how dodging works, the whole teleport thing, it feels really, really, really good. It has a flow to it that I don't even think something like Kingdom Hearts has in a way. But I do agree with you about the lock-on, and I don't know if you agree. A lot of times I would fight enemies and I wouldn't use the lock-on system because it was easier to switch between targets because once you were locked onto something, it felt really difficult, especially if there were a lot of enemies on screen at once, selecting a different enemy.
Yeah,
It was really finicky for me.
exact. I experienced that too, especially in the
Okay.
caverns with the goblins. I found myself, if they were in a giant pack, not using the lock on unless I was far away from them. I'd use it as the opener for the teleport strike or warp strike. I'd use that as the opener. But in general, I
Hmm.
was not using the lock on during that part. I would use the Tempest attack, the spin attack. I was calling it like Link's spin attack move. I would always use that in a big a group, and then follow up with basic attacks. I guess we should just quickly explain to people that everything other than your basic attacks, like dodging, teleporting, and these special abilities that you can press the triangle button to execute on the PS4, they use your
Hmm.
MP. And if your MP goes to 0, you go into something called stasis. Yeah, it's not
Right.
status, it's stasis, I believe. And you basically get stunned for a few seconds, or like Noctis puts his hand over his head, like, oh no, what did I just like? I'm tired, or I screwed up, or something. It's kind of amusing, and then you have to recover your MP by either standing still and not attacking, landing more strikes, or taking cover behind something using a cover action, and those things. So you have to be careful. You can't just like spam away. So like you can't spam the spin attack over and over again. Eventually you'll run out. You
Right.
can't execute it, or it'll put you into. There was nothing like doing the stupid warp strike and then you had the stasis effect right after it. Like that was so annoying. But yeah, I
Right.
found myself.
But I do like uh, because mana is used for so many actions. I found myself really carefully considering how I was using that resource. And another twist that I loved a lot is if you use the teleport to hang on something, you'll actually recover HP and MP a lot more quickly.
Yeah.
So especially when I was doing the behemoth fight, I would make sure to kind of keep the battle focused around something that I could teleport and hang off of. That way I could kind of unleash a bunch of attacks and then teleport away. And kind of having to think about where I was fighting, I thought was an interesting twist.
Yeah, I used that in the cave on my first time with the goblins. Like when I got low and my other party members weren't doing so well, I would always warp up to one of the walls and then try and rebuild my MPHB, go rescue them, and then go back to attacking. I found myself using the drain attack a lot in my first playthrough because it would replenish my HP real quickly. So especially when I was in a group of enemies, if I got like nicked by a few of them, I would always immediately use it to top myself off, and I found that very effective to do. The heavy strike or their full thrust, the like lunging attack that you have to charge up, and then the dragoon jump. As cool as they looked,
Right.
I ended up only using them on behemoth at times, and I
Right.
like when the enemy got like frozen in purple, like the stop status effect. That
Yeah.
was like great. I was like, yeah, now I can just wail on them, and yeah, maybe we should just quickly talk about there are like status effects, and
Yeah.
one of the important ones was the poison in the caves. I don't know if you encountered
Right.
that. If you didn't camp, we'll get to camping in a second, but there's a way to get a buff, and one of them's called immunity, I believe, which or gives you immunity to uh, status ailments. And if you go into that cave with the goblins, if you don't have it, if they nick you with a certain attack, you get poison, which not only drains your HP, but every so often Noctis kind of like staggers. It's like tripping in Brawl is what I would like equate it to, where you just can't attack for a second. It's really frustrating, and you will get
Right.
wrecked. Like even on my when I knew how to play through it, when I tried doing it that way, it was really hard to survive and make it to the end. If you get that buff, it makes your life a lot easier. So that's how they're handling. They're putting it seems like they're putting more emphasis on dealing with debuffs and having buffs in certain situations.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did encounter that when I was in the cave, and it taught me very quickly that camping and making that meal where you have immunity to status effects is super important. So anytime I knew I was going to do something for a while, I would always camp, get those buffs, and then do what I needed to do. But really quickly, just because you touched on it, the guy that initiates that attack where it stuns the enemy is Prompto. He shoots a bullet and it stuns an enemy. And what I thought was a little bit frustrating is because you only control Noctis, you don't have any control over when Prompto does that ability. And I
Yeah.
found that a little bit frustrating.
I would honestly agree. I didn't necessarily feel like I wanted. I kind of just treated it as a nice bonus, uh,
Right.
prompting it up to or yeah, prompting it up to RNG, giving me, bestowing its like luck upon me. Uh,
Hmm.
I couldn't help but think as I played through it, especially since I just played through Type Zero, why I couldn't use like the D-pad to cycle through my active party members. Like in Type Zero list, you can have three active party members you can toggle between. Like I didn't understand why you couldn't have the three of them. Maybe if it was a limitation, you could have three of them. And the fourth one was in reserves, so you could toggle between, Ignis, Gladiolus, or Prompto, so that you could control them during battle. Maybe not outside of
Hmm.
battle, but that would have been, nice to have that ability to change your active leader in combat. So I'm gonna assume hopefully they have a kind of like the gambits where you can set rules to your party members. I forget if they said anything about that, but I really do hope they have that, or at least they tweak the AI to be a little bit more proactive about doing stuff like that. Or at least having ways where you can contextually get them involved. Like I don't remember like the bison, buffalo, or the enemies from Final Fantasy VI. They're neutral unless you attack them. Uh,
Right.
there's the bigger ones. If you do the parry thing with them, and you time it right, uh, Gladiolus comes in and will do the whole like parry thing, like to stun them, hold them up so you can hit them to knock them over. There's like
Yep.
more involved parry parry actions that seemed contextual. So another one was the soldiers, the magic tech soldiers that come down who I had the green mask or faces. They looked like they were from the Wizard of Oz or something. I kept like joking.
I love their
Yeah, I
design
was like,
so
oh man,
much.
they look so menacing and weird, and this is kind of cool.
They, they have that attack where
Oh
they'll
yeah,
break their arm
yep.
off in you
It's
and electrocute you. I thought that was
it
awesome.
was yeah, that was pretty amazing to see them do those weird actions. But
Hmm.
I liked how like there's one where you could like flip over them and like hit them like yeah that
Yes,
flip over parry
that
like
was my
that was the
favorite
type of
one.
stuff I want to see
Hmm.
more of because those earlier trailers they showed all those contextual things like Prompto coming over to you tapping you on the shoulder and then firing and then you guys like
Right.
sharing that moment like I wanted to see more of that and they give you a few of those if you were able to figure them out. It was kind of like Resident Evil 5 the everyone trying to figure out all the combo Washeva attacks to do like the special finishers like there were a
Right.
ton of those. It felt a little bit like that, and I kind of had a good time with that.
Kind of moving away from combat just for a second. How do you feel about the characters themselves, your party members and Sydney, and the people that we encountered in the demo?
I mean, I get what they're going for with Ignis. I feel like they're trying to do Balthier, the character again,
Right.
and
Sure.
it's okay. I don't Noctis's English voice. It sounds cool, but it doesn't seem like it fits. The, it doesn't seem like it
No,
fits a
it's
little bit.
very
It's a little weird to me.
deep. Yeah, it feels deeper than it would be looking at that character.
Yeah, I do like although some of the banter gets a little repetitive, I do like some of Prompto's antics. They never got overbearing, but the shout outs sometimes it didn't ever approach like Xenoblade
Right.
levels, but I could tell
Right.
I hope that they in each new area or they have more diversity in the lines they're delivering during combat. But they had some kind of cheesy comedy parts like the opening in the tent where the earth shakes and Gladiolus says like call me Titan after like an earthquake
Right.
happens. I was like, okay, they've got some decent writing going on here. It's not wasn't amazing from what I saw in the demo, but it was it was enjoyable. I'm right now like I'm just not finding myself attached to any one of them yet, and I think I'm doing that
Right.
on purpose because I kind of am just was focused on the gameplay of the demo. I was trying not to get too invested in any story elements until I'm able to play the final thing. But oh yeah, like I just want to make a quick remark about like the how you approach Sydney at the gas station,
Yeah.
how she's bent over half. Oh man, like the chat went like nuts about that, of course. But
Right.
during the stream, however, I was just like, what are they trying to do here? I mean, I get yes, sexy girl bending over, sex appeal, but it was just way over the top, especially like her outfit. Actually seeing it in game,
Yeah.
uh, I don't know what they expect from the reaction that way, other than like trying to get people oogling over her. So that was the one kind of like okay part. Um, and yeah, her
It just felt a little bit overdone.
yeah, it
Yeah.
felt like a really bad stereotype. So
Right.
other than that, though, everything else was like nothing was distracting. It was just it all lent itself towards me enjoying the experience. Um, I will say, I guess there was like just two things I wanted to cover really quick. We mentioned the camping
Sure.
thing. I do like how you have to camp either at the RV trailers or the campsites to bank your experience to level up. Uh, it's kind of neat because people on stream are actually saying if you let a day go by or something, you lose the experience from the
Oh, interesting.
day. Apparently, I'm not sure if
I
that's
didn't
true. I
know
need to
that.
like test that out. But apparently, if you don't bank your experience and get the bonuses, you'll be like under leveled. And I did notice the more I camped, the more and I got that bonus experience, the more powerful I become. I could see better progression of my character than the first time when I went through and I didn't camp too much. The second thing was the quote unquote uncharted parts of the game where you're crawling through tight cavern spaces, or the Jurassic Park Behemoth ride where you're
Right.
sneaking by him and it's all very like cinematic and contextual inputs like go gotta
Hmm.
slow down like be careful don't let him hear you uh I kind of like those because it wasn't the predominant part of the gameplay. It was just these few moments that added to the sense of the whole lead up to the behemoth thing I thought was great like going through the mist and
Yeah,
tracking him. And then before that, you were like going around his cage area, like or in that small tunnel, which felt like you were in your own cage. I guess is what I meant to say. And
right.
then yeah, in his lair, like the whole plan, like they give you a plan. Like I'm like, okay, how are we gonna fight this thing? I'm kind of intimidated right now. And they're like, oh, we got a plan. And then I like the plan went totally shit for me the first time because I forgot how to execute a certain the shock or the strike attack, the warp strike.
Mhm.
I kept hitting the wrong button, so I fell down. But the second time I did it, I got it right. But I want to see more of that type of stuff used properly, and because it was very enjoyable.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to touch on with that is I loved how the behemoth actually felt like a creature inhabiting this world. You know, you were tracking him and you would see claw marks or areas where he had hunted and knocked down over trees and things like that. And I thought about it, and in most JRPGs, a lot of the creatures you encounter are just a means to an end. They're just there to give you experience and items, and they don't actually feel like things that live in the world. And I hope we get to see more of that in the full game, where you can kind of, you know, these creatures have habitats and you see them eating or whatever it is that just makes the world feel more alive.
Yeah, definitely agree. And the whole thing, real quick, I mean, I liked how they had the quest objective set up, how
Hmm.
you could set your waypoint on the active map, and they showed you where to go because the world's so big. But at any time, you could
Right.
find all these secondary objectives, and you could switch at any point your active waypoint to one of those. So it felt like there's a lot of
Right.
flexibility, and I'm hoping that carries over into the final game as well. That people are worried about what am I going to do in these open areas? Is there a lot to do? Well, if you stumble across other objectives, it adds it to your list. It doesn't automatically push it to the forefront of your current quest log, but you could still set it as your primary thing. I kind of like that. I kind of enjoyed that hint of what's to come with the secondary objectives in each zone.
I agree. The very final thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap this up, and this is definitely a spoiler. So if you don't want what I would argue is probably the coolest moment of the demo spoiled for you, you should bow out now.
Mm,
And that is the Rama summon that you get at about halfway through the demo, I would say, and it is an absolute spectacle.
that is what you come to expect out of Final Fantasy. Like that is the giant cinematic. Like if you think of summons in the history of Final Fantasy, like that's what it is. It's like giant, epic, setup cinematic cutscene type thing, and then like this amazing hit. Like think of like all like the attacks from before, and like think of like Knights of the Round. Like that would crash your PlayStation
Right.
One if you did that, or summoning like Bahamut in almost any game, or like Bahamut Zero as well. Like that was like insane, or Alexander. That these were it lived up to those types of moments, but like it was the
Right.
attack itself, like just how like the impact, like when the lightning bolt, like when Judgment Bolt strikes, and you hear that thud when it hits the ground, and like the
Right.
explosion, like the amount of crap that's going on, like it was the
And
most
just how much of the earth it scorches.
yeah, and it was the most
It's
satisfying
great.
thing to see that happen, especially on Behemoth, and then watching those 99,999 damage
Yeah.
points coming up and watching his HP drain. I was like, oh man, and like that
Yeah.
became like the guilty pleasure. And I came into like the running joke at the end of the stream I did was we'd go up to everything and anything because you could use it unlimited as long as you triggered the condition, which you got red health, which is you were at zero health, but you were in like a
Right.
dying state. We go to everything. Magitech soldiers, like 20 of them jump off, boom, Judgment Bolt. Wildlife, the big ones that were pissing me off, boom, Judgment Bolt. It was like just going around
Judgment
to
bolt
everything
everything.
and Judgment Bolting everything on the way to the end, the final objective. It was pretty amusing. And I'm gonna guess in the real game you can't just keep using it over and over like that.
No.
It's
No,
probably gonna
I'm
be
sure
like
there are
a
restrictions.
very either one-time use only, or and then it's done for the rest of the game, or something like you gotta trigger very special like meters, gotta build up like your limit break or something.
Yeah, I thinking about old Final Fantasy games. Usually, when you summon something, your party just kind of disappears, and you're just focusing on the summon itself, but it felt a lot more natural in 15 because there's a build up to it. You don't just hit the button and he instantly appears. Like the skies get dark and lightning starts crackling all around you, and then he shows up suddenly and grabs you.
Yep.
This enormous hand. And I thought that went in a long way in making it feel more natural, and you got a great sense of its scale, which I thought was super cool. But unfortunately, we are running short on time. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about Final Fantasy 15. I can't believe that I'm actually playing it, like you said. This is the kind of demo that I think, like every week, I'm probably going to pop it in and just mess around a little bit.
Definitely.
Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to wrap up with?
Keep watching at the end. The audio thing. There's a lot of clues in that video as to what's to come.
Yeah, deceptively so.
Yeah,
would
pay
say.
attention to the mural image, because you might notice the spoiler we were talking about with much enthusiasm appears in that image with a lot of other figures who could possibly be summons in the
Right.
game. And then a lot of people are thinking that a certain female character who's been shown in old trailers, her might have been shown off again in some form. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's not a CG thing. I was a little bummed about that, but the discussion that's come out of it's been pretty cool. So yeah, check that out, and then yeah, play it again. There's extra stuff actually if you go back through it. Like there are these hidden blades you can get. There's a Moogle doll, and keep killing Behemoth a certain amount of times, and something special happens if you do that.
All good advice. Thanks again, Damiani. Until next time.
All right, later, Red.